Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I was trucking up the highway, minding my own lane, with some dude in a Prius went and flipped me off. Guess my redneck hit him wrong. Seems like everyone these days is a ticking time bomb full of hate for folks like me who don't agree and ain't ever gonna change. And it gets me thinking, leave this long-haired country boy.
Tell you what, our nation's in a heap of trouble, and a lot of it comes from folks forgetting what this country was built on: faith in God, freedom, and the Constitution of the United States. I think we ought to throw in the Declaration of Independence there. That's what started it all. The John Birch Society is an educational organization that's been working for years to help everyday Americans understand and defend those founding principles. Now today, we're blessed to have Dr. Jon Diamond with us, one of the society's field representatives, a man who loves the Lord and loves this country. He's been traveling across America, teaching folks how to stand up for their God-given rights, push back against the tides that are trying to wash away our freedoms. The good book tells us, blessed is the nation whose God is the Lord. That's in Psalms 33:12. And I believe that with all my heart, Dr. Diamond is going to talk about how we can bring these truths back into our homes, our churches, and our local communities, so we can leave a freer, stronger America for our children and our grandchildren. So pull up a chair, open your heart, and stay tuned as we visit with Dr. Diamond and we learn how faith, courage, and good old-fashioned American grit can make a difference right here at home. I want to thank you for coming in, Jon Diamond. I really appreciate it. We're having a little bit of an issue with the internet, so hopefully that'll get itself worked out. What I guess we need to start with is, why don't you tell everybody what your role is with the John Birch Society? I know you've worked for them for about 3 years now.
Right.
And just exactly what your role is and where you travel all around.
Yeah, field coordinator is the actual title. My territory extends from western PA, from Lake Erie down here to where you're at the West Virginia border, over into Wheeling a little bit. And then I have all of Ohio and western New York from Buffalo all the way up through Syracuse. So
he's like a weatherman with his hand there. He's telling us exactly what's going on.
Exactly. That's what I need is a map. I need one of those green screen weather maps showing where my territory is. But yeah, they had me in Michigan at one point also, the whole southern tier of Michigan. So thankfully they took that from me. So I got quite a bit of traveling that I do, a couple weeks a month.
And you came back to Fayette County for an event we had here, and we really appreciate you doing that. I know that you helped put together some gun shows and things like that. And we're gonna put a gun show together this October. I hope that's the plan. That get some people to come in and do some things. Maybe get trade swap, get some gun shops in there and do some things. And he's agreed to help us with that. We're looking for another organization or two to help us out. So if anybody has any ideas, please get in touch with me. What I want to touch base on today is and we can go into this in great detail. The John Birch Society, what it does is it puts scorecards together for different senators and state senators, and do you do U.S. senators also?
Everybody from the state level up.
Okay, so they get scorecards, and our illustrious senator here in 32nd District, Pat Stefano, his score is 58%. And so, like, we got a graphic up there, and if you want to, folks, go ahead and take a look at it. But so maybe you can give us an idea how you grade these people.
Well, they just we got what's called the Freedom Index. If you go to jbs.org and Google it, Freedom Index, it'll come up. Usually, you just go down to your state you'll see the map of the states. Click on Pennsylvania, and every one of your legislators will come up. So we have a Freedom Index that comes out twice a year, and that comes out in our New American magazine. It's available online also, where you can look at all your federal reps, federal senators. Those are the ones that we cover. Then we also cover every elected state representative. So you can just find where your state rep is. Unfortunately, a lot of people, if you ask them, don't even know who their state rep is. So it kind of tells you where we're at in the country, right? So I mean, if people don't even know who their rep is, then they don't know how their rep is voting. Then we have what we talked about, before the show, people just voting for an R and a D, and that's pretty much it. So we got to become much more educated than that, and that's what the John Birch Society does. We have several courses. Constitution is a Solution. That's an older version. We have Blueprint for Liberty, which is our newest one now. So we first have to understand, what this country was founded on, how much power was given to the federal government, how much was retained at the state level. And then we just need to grade our representatives based on the oath that they took to support and defend the Constitution. Well, when you look at those freedom indexes, I mean, almost every Democrat is 0 to 8. I mean, it's horrible.
I think you said that one of them in the state was 33.
I've won.
He was the highest. He was the highest.
Yeah. And I was scrolling through as we were working through the technical difficulties, and I found one Democrat had 33. Every other one was, almost all of them were 0. Other than that, they had like a 3 or an 8. The sad thing is the Republicans. The Republicans, we have some good ones that have 100%, but there are a lot of them in there that are just hovering around 50, 57. I saw 133, 127, and people just go to the voting booth at election time, and they see the D, they see the R, they check the box, and they go home, and then they don't understand, why our country and our state is out of control.
Well, one of the things I believe that's got our state out of control is our voter laws here in Pennsylvania, and that can be attributed to the Pat Stefano Act 77. I really feel like that's one of the main things that we have to fix. Right. We have to get people in there that are willing to make changes, not just go along to get along.
Right.
Okay. One of the things John Birch Society does, we've got a lot of kind of initiatives that we do, and one of them is restore election integrity. I had Dr. Douglas Frank on tour up and down Western PA, Ohio, and New York before the last election, and he's showing he'll come in and he'll pull your county up and he'll show how they're adding people to the voter rolls, and then they vote and then turn around and they take the people off afterwards. And I know one state he went to, they said they were talking about those are people that just moved away, and he was like, yeah, they did 10 years ago. So they were taking dead people that are either taking dead people or people that moved away 10 years ago, bringing them back, putting them on the voter rolls, voting, and then as soon as the election's over, taking them off. So the election system is pretty far gone in a lot of states, California, New York. If you remember back to the hanging Chad incident with that was all staged. It happened in a Democrat county. Of course, they always happen in Democrat county. That whole thing was staged. And I spent 8 years in the Air Force during the Cold War. And I know that, what they said, I don't care who counts the vote, or I don't care who votes. I care who counts the votes. And I tried to tell people back then, I said, guys, this is just a horse and pony show trying to get you to get away from paper ballots, because these computers are much more reliable and secure. And everybody was like, no. And I'm like, that's exactly what's happening here. So here we go. If you look at the Reagan election, I forget who he beat, Dukakis maybe or somebody. He won 48 states. I think like Minnesota and Delaware were the only 2 states that were blue. That is a true representation of America. But unfortunately, they realized that the voter fraud was the only way that they were going to win this. So that's when they staged that whole hanging Chad. And that's when all these states were convinced into bringing in computers. I mean, we used to know who the winner was at 11 o'clock at night. Now we don't know for 4 or 5 days. But this is a better system. I mean, it's all rigged. Every bit of it's rigged. That's why they moved Hillary up to New York. She had no ties in New York, but they already had the the voting, rigged up there. They knew they could just basically hand her the election. And that's what they do. They've got California, they've got New York, they're probably pretty close, if not to having Pennsylvania. You saw what happened when Trump got robbed the first time, right? They're putting up papers pulling out boxes, and, U.S. mail trucks are backing in with ballots. I mean, yeah, you're absolutely right. That is one of the major priorities, because it is disenfranchising voters. There's a lot of people who are like, it don't matter. It's rigged anyway. So yeah, and that's why we work. So you can go to jbs.org and click on one of the tabs that says restore election integrity, and that's one of the things we're definitely fighting for.
I know that there was so much went on with the 2020 election, and we know that there was problems in every county, not just in. Here's where a lot of people don't realize it, and I know you do. This is where having good, strong county commissioners makes a difference, because they shouldn't have certified the vote. They should have, the Republican counties, the red counties, should have said, "Wait a minute here, we got a problem. We're not going to certify our vote. We need to take another look at this." And that's what happened. You can say people can say what they want, but it was actually the county commissioners that didn't stand up at the time when they needed to in the state of Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
And because they were scared. They were scared. So anyways, let's get back to some other things. One of the things that we were talking about gun rights. I know that the John Birch Society is definitely probably one of the strongest Second Amendment. Same way with the Pennsylvania state constitution. One says the Pennsylvania state constitution says shall not be infringed upon. So I mean, we have to think about that. The other, and you know what? It's not a right given by a lot of people who are going to criticize me for saying this, but I know that you're going to take my side on this. It's not a right given by the Constitution. It's a God-given right.
Correct.
I mean, and that's where the difference between John Birch and a lot of these 2A groups are different. They want to negotiate and try to say that this is the way we do it, but I think that we just need to stand up and say, you know what, I'm allowed to defend myself.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and I just taught this the other day. We don't understand American history because we don't understand British history. I mean, we don't understand that the British had a revolution 100 years before we did. It's called the Glorious or the Bloodless Revolution. I mean, they've actually executed kings for violating. There was like 2 times. I think there was 8 times I showed from the time the Magna Carta was written up to right before the revolution that they basically kicked their king out. They deposed their king for violating their rights. So when our founding fathers came along, hey, we're just doing what all the other Britons had done for 500 years. We have the right to depose a king that violates our charters and our sacred charters. So, but the right to bear arms was one of those things. And the Continental Congress actually, I only knew about one, but I did my research. The Continental Congress actually put out 4 resolutions saying that they have a right to defend themselves against Britain. Because Britain was the terrorists. They were the lawbreakers. All right. It wasn't the founding fathers. And I remember if you read Thomas Paine's Common Sense, he said, I would have never supported an offensive war, but because I think it's murder. He said, but if somebody comes in and breaks my house and attacks my children and burns my house and kills my family, I'm supposed to put up with it. So I mean, they knew they had a right of self-defense, and that's really all the Revolutionary War was. It was a right of self-defense. But it was done the right way. It was done through their representatives. You got militia groups out there running around, and I'm glad they're trained because I'm a former Air Force veteran, security police. But in actuality, a militia has to be called up by the state, other than it just becomes vigilantes. So the right to bear arms is something that you've got great organizations like Gun Owners of America, the NRA, you've got these, but they're single issue, single issue guys. You've got pro-life groups that are single issue. And that's the problem. We've got all these freedom groups, but they're all splintered. The pro-right people don't care about gun rights. The gun right people don't care about abortion. And we're so scattered. And unless we kind of organize and just say, look, we're going to defend all the rights, right? And that's what the John Birch Society does. We defend everything that's in the Constitution. We don't take, what if it's in there, we're defending it. And that's what we need to get back to be a constitutional republic once again.
We get back to a lot of different things, but what we're finding out is, and you realize this more and more, our state representatives, state senators, even our Congress, they don't have no idea about the Declaration of Independence. They don't understand. They know it's there, but they don't follow it. They don't read it. And same way with the Constitution.
Mm-hmm.
So I think one of the things that I've always prided myself was I spoke at a Patriots group up in Indiana and Pennsylvania, and it was kind of neat. And when I got done, I always do this. I said, and a lot of people say you shouldn't do it, but I always do it. I said, does anybody have any questions? Well, there was a lady in the audience she stuck up her hand. I said, so do you have a question? She says, yeah. She says, what party do you represent? Or she says, or what party are you registered with? I said, well, I am a Republican. But she said, I said to her, I said, well, while I am a Republican, I'm a Christian constitutionalist.
Mm-hmm.
And she sat back in her chair and didn't know what to say, but there was a gentleman a couple of chairs over. He jumps up and he said, he gets it. He understands. He understands what America's about.
Exactly.
And I said, I believe that. I really believe. I believe God gave us the rights. I said, first, faith, family, freedom.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's important.
Yeah.
But God gave us the rights. But it's up to us to stand up against tyranny. And people don't realize what tyranny is, but right now we're under tyranny.
Oh, without a doubt.
I mean, we got people, county commissioners, and I don't keep saying county commissioners, but elected officials that just will not stand up for anything because they're more worried about getting reelected than they are anything.
Yeah.
Our state senator right now, Pat Stefano, is a perfect example of that. His scorecard with you guys is 58%. That should never, ever be. He should be almost 100%.
Right.
I mean, our two representatives over here in Fayette County are almost at 100%.
Right.
But so how can our senator that we elected at the same time be so far off the mark? I mean,
yeah, I give at first anyway. I give people the benefit of the doubt because, like I said, I'm 61. I graduated 1983 in Columbus, Ohio. Our 12th grade government class was called Problems of Democracy. We did not teach government. We taught it was just psychology. It was a psychology class. It was some blue. If today she'd have blue hair, but just a libtard lady, and she taught psychology. We didn't learn anything. We didn't learn the Constitution. We didn't learn the Declaration of Independence. I went in the Air Force 6 days after I graduated high school, and I took an oath to support and defend the Constitution. I'd never read it. I didn't read it till I got out. I was like 27 years old before I ever read it first. So, I mean, first and foremost, it's our school system. You need to get the kids out of the school system. I mean, their whole thing is to turn your kids into atheists, homosexual, leftists, communists. That's what the agenda is. That's what the curriculum is, right? And I've heard too many parents say, oh, my kids, were raised good, and now they turned into this, or I sent them off to some college, and within a semester they come back with blue hair and tattoos on their. I mean, it's just insane what the educational institutions are doing, both at the elementary up to K through 12, and the colleges. So I give them a little bit of the benefit of the doubt, the fact that they've never been taught. But that's what my job is. And your job is. My job is to go in there and instruct them. Okay. Here's the Declaration of Independence. What's it say? We hold these truths self-evident that all men are created equal and they're endowed by their creator with certain inalienable rights. And then it says this: to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men. All right. So when I go in and I say, what is your number one function? If the answer to protect your God-given rights does not come out of their mouth, which it probably won't, that's why they got a scorecard that they do. Right. And then they take an oath to support and defend the Constitution, which is basically just a rib cage around the God-given rights. All right. That's what the Bill of Rights is. Congress shall make no law against religion, speech, right to bear arms, so on and so forth. So you go in and you educate them. That's where I give them the benefit of the doubt. Every last one of them. I understand I wasn't taught this stuff. You probably weren't either. Your number one job is to protect my God-given rights. That's what you've taken an oath to do. Now, if you don't do it, and I've got a report card showing where you're at now, I expect to see that thing up around 100, or we're going to use that against you, and primary you. So I understand this guy's running again for Senate. And, that's why I tell people, anybody that wants to run against him, print off all these scorecards, hand them out, educate the people. This guy's not protecting your rights. He's not doing what he took an oath to do. And if the people don't kick him out, then you're reaping what you sow. We're getting what we asked for.
And you know what? I'm a firm believer in, you're in control of your destiny. So if we don't take time to evaluate what's going on and change things, I mean, the go along to get along stuff has to end. It has to end, and it has to end now. And especially if it doesn't end, and I tell everybody this, if it doesn't end in the time of Trump, it's not going to end.
Ooh.
I mean, let's put it, because the rest of these political people, they worry about the 2%. That's all they're worried about. And what I'm saying is they worry about the 2% that they can, and actually 2% controls the vote. The people that are so far left, they worry about that 2%. They don't want it to get no bigger. They don't want it to get to 3%, and it won't. But they're worried about the left, the far left, and I think about that, and that's what's happened to the Democrat Party. I mean, the Democrat Party is left, and now they're kowtowing down to these wackadoodles.
Yeah,
I mean, that are far left.
Yeah, and that's the problem with just the D and the R, because I mean, the further the left goes, being a conservative just means you're a little bit to the right of the left. I mean, the Democratic Party in the 1960s, they would look like Kennedy. Kennedy would be a right-wing Tea Party, and he was a Democrat. So that's what happens. We keep sliding towards the left, towards a communistic, atheistic, authoritarian government. As long as the Republicans stay on this side of it, what's your choice? What's your other option? And it's not that. And so you said a very good thing there at the beginning. That's what I say. I'm a Christian constitutionalist. That's it. There are two lines in the sand: God's law and constitutional law. And if we use those as the plumb bobs, then we don't vote for anything that's in violation of God's law. We don't vote for anything that's in violation of constitutional law. Then we have our constitutional republic. That's what the founder said. And I think it was Patrick Henry. Don't quote me on this, but he said, I'm repeatedly asked whether or not I'm an aristocrat or a Democrat, which is basically the Democrat Republican day. He said, I'm a Christocrat. I believe he that created mankind is best qualified to govern him.
Well, you think about, I've read a lot about the revolution, different things about it. But one of the people that I really believe the revolution, and he's been credited with a lot of the fire in the revolution, is Samuel Adams.
Mm-hmm.
And but he told everybody, he said, if you're willing to put up with this, then put up with it. Yeah. If you're not, it's time to make a change. Yeah. And right now, this is where our country is. It's time to make a change.
It is.
Whether you agree with all President Trump's philosophies, that's here nor there. But I mean, I guess I borderline the Rand Paul and the Thomas Massey type of people. I understand where they're coming from. I understand. Maybe I'm more like the Crockett of Fayette County. I don't get it, but I don't get why people just don't get it. But the problem is apathy, and until we change that with people and right now they don't see it. The only thing they see is taxing.
Yeah.
And they don't get why we have to increase taxes.
And inflation.
And it's inflation, but it's also lack of a responsibility in using your tax money, because it's a horrible thing.
Oh.
It's a horrible thing. I mean, I often get a kick about, everybody laughs about it, about the hammer that costs $300 and the toilet seat that costs $1,000. But you know what? Well, until I got involved in government, I thought, they're crazy. But now I can see why. Yeah. I mean, government moves like molasses in February on everything, because they're calculating how, if I do this, they're counting, they're calculating the votes that they're going to lose or they're going to gain by doing it. That's all they care about.
Yeah.
That's all they care about.
Yeah, they know they realize they can vote money out of the public treasury and give it to groups of people, then those people will keep voting for them.
Exactly.
And that's what even a lot of the founders said. Once the people realize that they can vote for themselves money out of the public treasuries, it's over. And that's kind of where we're at. So we need to get back to a correct tax. And I was a theologian long before I was a constitutional scholar, a historical scholar. And I really, I'd say taxation is theft. And they're like, oh, well, Jesus said to pay taxes. I'm like, how much? That's even where most pastors can't even answer. I said 10%. God gets 10% from the tithe. Government's only entitled to 10%. I say, go back to 1 Samuel 8. They didn't have a king. They didn't have a king. They didn't have taxes. And they asked for a king. And God's like, okay, but warn them, this is what's going to happen. He's going to take a tenth of this, tenth of this, tenth of this, tenth of this, tenth of this. So, I mean, would you rather live in a country that has no taxes or live in a country that has taxes? But even then, government's only entitled to a tenth. So if this was running by constitutional law and biblical law, then they would look at everything everybody makes and says, I'm only entitled all taxes. Because you got gas taxes, you got taxes you don't even know you're paying.
Well, you live in the state of Pennsylvania, and gas taxes, one of the worst things that, I mean, it's a scourge on Pennsylvanians.
Yeah.
I mean, anybody that lives in a border state, now I don't know about New York, but if you live anywhere near Ohio or West Virginia, even Virginia or Maryland, you're buying gas there.
You are. And I mean, just think what that would do with the economy. First off, you live in a budget. I have to live within a budget. If the government only said we're only entitled to 10% of what you make to make government run, that's fine. We need roads. We need snow plows. We need stuff like that. If they only took 10% and they said, okay, here's what we got to work within, it doesn't matter what they want to fight over there between the Democrats and the Republicans. Now imagine how much money that would put back in the economy. Most people are paying like 35% minimum of their income in taxes. And that needs to, if it goes back to 10%, and now I have more money to buy TVs and buy this and buy boats and whatever. All of this stuff just goes back into the economy. Right now it's going, it all 35% of what you make goes into government.
Probably closer to 40.
And it probably is. It is. And I just kind of looked that up not too long ago, and it kind of gave me a window there. But still, when it goes into government, it just gets wasted because it isn't their money. So there you have a $300 hammer and a $1,000 toilet seat, and they're giving money to all these NGOs and Planned Parenthood and all these groups that, that shouldn't be getting tax dollars.
And that's one of the things we have trouble with in Fayette County. We have an NGO that's just, and what it's done is it's put money back into their own group. Mm-hmm. It's like, we're going to take tax money, and they'll say, well, they got grants. It doesn't matter. It's still tax money, and we're going to give it the FAPEN, and then they turn around and the group that's FAPEN ends up getting the money. I mean, it a rate of like 75%. Yeah, they give some money out to some other people to make it look good.
Yeah,
but most of it stays right into the group of people that. So they're privatizing themselves with government money.
Correct.
So it's easy to make money. It's easy to stay in business if you know that. Well, hey, you know what? I'm gonna go to the boys club and say, hey, look, I got a problem this year. I need a project that I can figure out how to profit $100,000 or $200,000 on, so so I can keep my business afloat, or so I can keep all these people hired. Well, then they find something.
Yeah.
And I mean, we got a building that was built in Fayette County that there's nothing in it. There's not even a floor. And I'm talking a building you could play a football game in.
Wow.
And it just sits there. It just sits there. I mean, it's supposed to be it's supposed to be a building to showcase what we could do in Fayette County for other businesses. Well, it's been built for a good many years.
Yeah.
And when you think about all the money that was put into that building, it could have, instead of raising taxes, that could have been a tax reduction.
Yeah. Yeah. And you'll hear the phrase, government corporate partnerships. You hear that a lot. Government corporate partnership. Basically, it's just the government taking your money. Socialism is just a redistribution of wealth. So they take it from you and they give it to other people, right? So this is what you have with a lot of these NGOs. And one of the ladies that was at the meet and greet today, she was talking about the pipeline, the transmission line that's coming through using eminent domain. Eminent domain from the founding of this country till 2005. There's one called the Kelo case, Supreme Court case. Eminent domain was just like, hey, yeah, we can take your land, but it's for something that everybody uses: roads, schools, landfills. All right. In the Kelo case, now they basically just said corporations can take your money.
That was the judge that ruled on that. And then he turned around and retired.
Yeah, well, you remember, because they were talking about, okay, we're going to put a Walmart on your house. We're going to take his house, because there was but that was a big thing. And it was like, okay, so now they can take through eminent domain, the government can take your land and give it to a solar farm.
Yeah.
Or anything. So the argument was, let's say you got this blighted neighborhood, and then Walmart wants to come in and put a store there, that they could come in and take that and put a Walmart there, and it's creating jobs, right? So it's good for the economy. And they're not taking blighted towns. They're taking people's farms. I mean, they're just taking it and giving it to especially these energy companies with these solar farms and these CO2 pipelines and these transmission pipelines. I mean, they're taking our tax money. They're giving them to these energy groups, and then these energy groups are going in and using our tax money to buy our farmland and take it. I mean, it's just insane. So we've got a ton of work to do. You got to get rid of like the Kelo case. I'm hoping somebody will get their farm property seized, and they'll fight it and take it all the way back up and hopefully overturn that, like they did with Roe v. Wade. Roe v. Wade was unconstitutional from the beginning, and everybody knew it. Right. But it's all unconstitutional, but until you can get the government to say, yeah, what we've been doing is wrong, it's not going to stop. They're just going to keep doing it.
Well, I think a lot of times we do, and it goes all back to one thing. It goes back to apathy. And you know what? You look at how people do business in life, and some of the people that are the most successful. It isn't the amount of money that you're able to borrow or spend. It's the amount of money you're able to put to work for yourself.
Yes.
So, any good businessman will sit here and right across from me and tell me, I like to work with other people's money. And he does. Mm-hmm. He does. He wants to buy whatever is necessary. If you're in the steel business, you want to get the coke from somebody, and you don't want to have to pay for it for 30, 60, 80 days. But and so you can make the steel to do whatever, and then you sell the steel, and then you're always generating profits with somebody else's money,
right?
But it can't do that. And government is acting like a business more and more every day.
Corporation.
And go back to one thing that Maggie Thatcher said: socialism only works until the money runs out. Exactly. And we're at the brink right now.
Yeah,
because the 40-60%, like you said, we're paying 40% of taxes. What happens when we get to 52? Is people going to say, you know what? I might as well just why work? Why kill myself? The better myself? I'll just let the government take care of me. Yeah. So, and that's where we're at with this tax thing.
Yep. And that's why I got Kennedy killed. That's not what your country can do for you, but that's what you can do for your country. You shouldn't want to take anything from the government, because the government's just got to take it from somebody else. I mean, if you go to Google and you Google John Birch Society overview of America, there's a 30-minute video that is the best video you'll absolutely ever see. You can go to 4 years of a political science school. You could go to 4 years of an economic school and never get the information you get in that 30-minute video. So again, it's about training the youth and training the next generation. And I don't know if we're going to fix the apathy with the generation that we're dealing with, because there's just, I wrote 2 books. One's called Fighting the Next American Revolution. The other one's called Appeal to Heaven. And in both books, I put a chart. And history's just cyclical. It's not linear. It's cyclical. That's what it says in Ecclesiastes. There's nothing new under the sun. Who can say this has never happened? It's just over and over. Well, it goes from bondage to courage and spiritual faith. And then once you're broke free, you got liberty. And then liberty leads to abundance. And then abundance leads to apathy. And then apathy leads to dependence on government. And then once you're dependent on government again, you're enslaved again. And then the only thing that ever breaks it out is freedom, faith, and courage. And that's what the founding fathers did. They had great faith. They had great courage. They laid their lives on the line. If you've never seen a little 9-minute video that Paul Harvey did about the signers of the Declaration, when they said, our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor, they meant it. Because if you look at what happened to most of the men that signed that document, it did not end well for them.
There was 56 men that signed the Declaration of Independence. And out of the 56 men, there not one of them ever broke. And they stayed the course the whole time. And like you say, their families was killed, their houses was burned.
Yep.
I mean, we think about Jefferson and Franklin and all of them, but you know what? It was the ones that were on the outside in different parts of the country that took the brutal.
Yeah.
And people don't realize that.
Yeah, and they were almost like the lightning rods that the government kind of went after, and that allowed Jefferson and Washington and Madison and Hamilton and John Jay to do their stuff at the legislative level. And they died destitute, lost their wives and never saw them again, lost their kids and never saw them. It's just Google it, Paul Harvey on the Declaration of Independence. If that doesn't change your life, I don't know what will.
Well, I want to get to round this up because I could go on and on. Me and you could talk probably till
the cows
Tuesday,
come home.
till Tuesday, till next Tuesday. But I really appreciate you calling me. I want to coming in. I want to thank you for coming into the studio here with me. We're going to get you back. And like I said, I definitely want to do a gun show this year. So maybe over the next month or so, we can plan to do that stuff and go from there.
Yeah. I just encourage everybody. You're a JBS member. I'd encourage everybody just to join John Birch Society. Go to our website, click join, get plugged into a chapter. We got chapters that meet. We got one right here in Uniontown that meets. We got them all over the state. Got them all over the country, actually. But
I will make this offer to you. If any of the people from John Birch Society here, Fayette County, or I don't think you have a chapter here in Greene County.
No.
So maybe we can get some people to come. They want to. I do a couple fairs every year, so if they want to come and be part of the. We definitely advertise and help. I really appreciate you coming in. So with all that, we're going to close up, and I want to thank everybody. So we'll be back at you again, at least a couple more times this week. On this road called life, you have to take the good with the bad, smile with the sad, love what you got, and remember what you had. Always forgive, but never forget. People change, things go wrong, but just remember, the ride goes on. God bless each and every one of you, and God bless America. I am Jon Marietta, and I am the Hillbilly. On this road called life, you have to take the good with the bad, smile with the sad, love what you got, and remember what you had. Always forgive, but never forget. People change, things go wrong, but just remember, the ride goes on. God bless each and every one of you, and God bless America. I am Jon Marietta, and I am the Hillbilly.